I'm so impressed how professional you are. I liked your little email. I'm like, this is like a whole thing. Like, is Oprah gonna call me?
Of course. Are you
Like, how do
kidding
you know how to
me?
do all this stuff?
7 years of doing it. You
Okay, that
you
is
put
just
a
so
little tricks
crazy
here
to
and
me.
there to go.
That
Yeah.
is just so crazy to me.
Yeah, yeah. But thank you. Thanks for being very responsive and helpful.
Oh yes.
Yeah. Okay, let me see this one and then edit that one. Okay. No, just want to edit you. Um, um, so I go like, oh, copy the string. Okay, why is it not connecting to this one? And then, okay, let me just look. And then add, I'm pasting you back on there. Is that it? Okay, string key, and then save changes. Okay, come on, come on, come on. Yeah, waiting for the Instagram bit to come on.
Okay.
It's just the weirdest. We'll say about 2 minutes, so we should be fine. Okay, yay! It worked!
Yay!
Okay, let me find a way to add you on there. Um, so let me go to my Instagram on my phone. And okay, it says I'm live. No, on this one, the More Sibyl Podcast should be live. Um, I am gonna tag you on there. Are you able to pop on your phone and look at the what's the name? I'm gonna tag you on the live, so if you can just share it and then
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
yeah. So 1 second, let me do that.
Okay.
And it's gonna be from my main page, like my More Sibyl Podcast, not my personal one.
Okay.
Yeah, so I'm doing that right now. So Millicent Nicole, is that two underscores?
It's one, I think.
I think it's two.
Is it
Yeah,
two? Okay.
I think it's two. Yeah. All right. See if it pops up on your
Okay,
end.
so I'm on my Instagram looking for it.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, hold
I
on.
just tagged you on it. See if it's popping up there.
Yeah. Okay. Hmm.
Do you see it?
Mm-mm.
Okay, 1 second.
Okay, wait. Is it this countdown you have?
Not the countdown one. No.
Okay, then I didn't
One
get
second.
it. That's the
Yeah,
only
yeah.
thing
Hold
you
on.
have.
Yeah, yeah. Hold
Okay.
on. Hold on. Hold on. Yeah. I don't think it went through. Let's go. Let's try it again.
Now, is this says you invited me to collaborate on the podcast? Do I need to
Which
click
you
on
did.
that?
No, you already did that already.
Okay,
You
okay,
can click
okay.
on. You can click on that, but
That's not it. Okay.
try
Then
to
I don't
add.
have anything.
Add. Okay. Let's see. Um, yeah. 1 second.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll figure it out. We'll figure it out. Um, yeah, let me call my assistant real quick. 1 second.
Okay.
I'm gonna mute myself and then
Okay.
just. All right, we're good. He's gonna tag you on it
Okay.
in a bit, and then we can go from there. All
Okay.
right. And then 1 second, let's check Facebook. So the beautiful thing about StreamYard is it has its multiple integrations. If you have the paid version, where it can send your post to
Oh,
Instagram, YouTube, and then yeah, so
oh, wow. Okay.
it's quite lovely. Okay.
It's quite lovely.
All right, there you go. Okay, let's get started.
Okay.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the podcast. This is your host Mo, and today I am super excited to um, share this story, and I'm so honored to have this person. So, to get us started, what does it truly mean to be called to care? I think it's a phrase that sounds both graceful and noble,
Mhm.
and but those who have walked this path or who walk this path, the reality is anything but tidy. Although there are moments filled with joy, I imagine, but there's also immense pressure, self doubt, and quiet sacrifices. So today we'll explore the beautifully complex life of Millicent Olulade. She's a nurse practitioner who wears multiple hats. She describes herself as a healer, a mama to four beautiful, vibrant girls, and a partner to her best friend. But her journey isn't a picture perfect social media post. It's raw, it's honest, and it's incredibly human. So join us as we peel back the layers of marriage, of motherhood, of medicine, of grief, identity, and exploring how care manifests in all of its messy but magnificent forms. Hi, Millicent. Thanks for joining us
Hi.
today.
Thank you so much for having me. Your introduction was so eloquent and beautiful. It just almost brought tears to my eyes. So thank you for that. That's so
You,
sweet.
it's funny how every time I read my guest bio, they always say, "Oh my God, that sounds so beautiful." But you
You are
just
just
forgot.
so beautiful.
You put it together in the intake form.
I
It's all
know. I
yours.
don't
I
know,
just
but maybe
yeah.
it's the way you assembled it, but it's just like poetry.
But thank you
You're
for sharing
welcome.
that with us. Because without the you filling the intake form, we'll have no materials to use. Yeah.
Yes.
So and like I said off camera, you look very beautiful, and I'm
Thank you
so
so
honored
much.
to have you.
You're so
So
kind.
we always thank you. We're gonna keep doing this back and forth.
Yes,
The
I
thank
know.
yous, the thank yous. I'm always very curious to start with the origins, right? How we grew up, because there's so many of our early experiences that really shape our current lives.
Yeah.
So for those who don't know you, can you help us trace back your roots?
Yeah, so my grandfather was in the military and he was stationed in New Orleans, and that's how he met my grandmother. So my grandfather is African American, my grandmother is Creole. And then we transitioned over time into Oklahoma City. And then my grandmother had 5 children with my grandfather. And then our family roots went from New Orleans to Houston. So in Houston, I don't know if some of your viewers are familiar with Frenchie's Chicken, but that is
Uh,
affiliation of my family.
wow.
Yeah, and
The Frenchies, like the franchise?
The Frenchies, the franchise. Yes, that is my grandmother's brother who started that, and he also owned a sausage factory. And so a lot of the ingredients, because it's like a secret recipe, they have it mixed at different factories and then bring it together and assemble it there in the restaurants. And they also their food can be found in grocery stores and whatnot. So they're definitely migrating throughout Texas. So that's interesting that you've heard about that.
Oh yeah.
Oh, so,
I like
so
good food. I don't know if you can tell.
yes, yes, I love food too. So yeah, so my family, my immediate family, essentially stayed here. I was born and raised in Oklahoma City, and then my mom remarried, so we briefly lived in Maryland for maybe about a year, and then my mother was homesick, so we moved back to Oklahoma City, but then moved to Edmond. So from elementary school to high school, I attended, Edmond schools.
Mhm.
And then eventually I was very active in sports. I did basketball and track in high school and middle
Nice.
school. And I got a sports scholarship to Texas Arlington. I ran track there. And then unfortunately I had an injury after my first year. And
Mm.
then, yeah, so I transferred and then I ended up finishing at OSU with a degree in biology in hopes of becoming a dermatologist. Um, and then obviously, like I lost my brother along that way. I was grief stricken, anxiety, depressed stricken, everything. So I just didn't want to put that extra pressure of going to medical school. But I know that my calling was to be a healer and to take care of people, and to be a mother. And so I said, well, how can I still do this without the pressures of like, I didn't want to leave my mom here in Oklahoma City when my brother had recently just passed. So I said, my mom said, well, have you ever thought about the other healthcare alternatives like nursing, physical therapy, respiration, occupational therapy, yeah, respiration therapy. And I said, I haven't. So I started shadowing those different fields, and I really loved physical therapy and nursing. But I was encouraged by physical therapists to do nursing because they said there's so many things you can do with nursing. And in physical therapy, it's just kind of one little spot that you stay in throughout your career. So I decided to do nursing, and then eventually I got my master's. And shortly after I got my master's, I got married. I had 4 children. And so here we are today.
Wow. To think that it started by your grandfather meeting, your grandma in New Orleans and all the roots you guys have, planted along the way. And that's
Yes.
so very, very nice to hear. So I have 2 follow-up questions for you.
Yes.
If you were to enter a French's restaurant today, would you pay for the food or no?
It depends. If I go by myself, I probably would. If I went with, usually when I go to Houston, I'm with my family members there, so no. We just go
Okay.
to the back door of the original Frenchies, and
Okay.
then we would get chicken, and then we'd have it catered for little family events or whatever we had going on. So typically,
Okay.
no. But you would never
Right.
really catch me in Houston by myself without my because we have such a huge close knit family there.
Nice, nice. I was asking, so maybe I could just do like a name drop and then get like oodles and oodles of chicken,
Baby,
but just like
I'll tell you whose name to drop to get
okay, okay. Thanks for
that.
looking out for it, sister. And then,
Yes.
how many siblings did you grow up with, by the way?
So I have, so my mother, when she remarried,
Yeah.
my stepfather had 2 children, and then there was my brother and I. So there was
Okay.
4. And then my biological father was previously married, and then he had 2 children before that marriage, and then got remarried later and has another child. But it was mostly predominantly my brother and I growing up together in the same household.
And was this is your younger brother, right?
He's older by about 2
Okay.
years.
Okay. Okay. Okay.
So it was a
Um,
lot of cat and dog, growing up. It was like very competitive for him because I
yeah.
was like the youngest and the baby girl. And so,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So let's talk about him a little bit. Yeah.
Yeah.
I've heard it said that grief is love with nowhere to go. You've
Yes.
experienced a deeply personal loss, your brother's tragic death. Would you be open to sharing what happened and how it's really shaped your outlook on life and
Yeah.
resilience?
As I recall growing up, I've always been a very extroverted person, very outgoing, carefree, yet responsible. But once he passed away, I I think back, like, when did I become such an anxious person? Like, I hover over my kids. I'm always fearful something will happen. And I realized that's when all of that started when I was 16. So I had my 16th birthday, I remember, on a Friday because I had to go get my driver's license, get licensed for that. And he had come over the next day on Saturday. He was no longer living with us, he was 18. And he came over for breakfast, and he, congratulated me on getting my license. And at the time, my mother was working at an apartment complex as the manager because my grandfather had owned these apartment complexes forever. So she just helped him managing them. So the plan was for the following Monday for him to move into the apartment complex. So that way, even though he wasn't at home, he would still be very close, to my mother, and she could keep an eye on him because he's still 18. And at the time, my brother, he graduated high school at 16, and he started going to UCO. And so he had done about a year and a half of college work before the age of 18. So he was very, very smart. So the plan was for him to move into the apartment complex, which, my family owned and my mother was working. And so Sunday/Monday morning, about 4 in the morning, we got a knock on the door. The doorbell rang, and there were 2 detectives. And I remember, like, my mom just screaming, and I'm like, like, what's going on? And then it was just literally like in slow motion. She says, your brother's dead. And I said, what? And she was so confused saying that. She's like, he's dead. And she's like, call your dad, so I just remember I called my dad, and We don't have a super close relationship. Like he was here and there, but he lived down the street, but we would still try to keep in touch. And so I called him and he was just so confused as to why I was calling him, at 4 in the morning. And I said, Gavin's dead. And I just heard the phone drop. And it just from then on, my mother, she's always been very loving and outgoing, and she just changed. And I realized in that moment, I've always kind of been the mother figure between my mom and I's relationship.
Yeah.
And I knew that that was like another responsibility I was going to have to take on. Like I was going to have to be strong for her. She was completely broken. And so at that moment, I was like the adult. And, we just kind of had to get through it together. You never really get through it, but you learn to cope. And it was just very hard watching her deteriorate. And she would cry every night, and I would hear her, and I would just go downstairs and hold her.
Mm.
And so shortly after, that was when I started looking into college. And I wanted to kind of go out of state. I had offers at Brown University, at Syracuse University, like
Okay.
different places for track. And I said, I don't think I can leave my mom. Because she's all I have, really. And I'm all she has. And
Yeah.
so I started writing coaches in Texas and saying, "Hey, is there still availability for, me?" And they were like, "Sure, come down for a visit." I literally went for one visit to Texas Arlington and I signed. I love the girls on the track team. I love the coach. The facility was nice. And I knew that I would only be 3 hours away. I could come home on the weekends, just
Mm.
be available because I didn't want to make my mom even more internally
Word. Yeah. Yeah.
sick. And so from that point on, I just took on the role of being strong and, not crying in front of my mom and just always making sure that I made good decisions because I never wanted to disappoint her or anyone else in my family. Because it was just me and like the light was, I felt like shone on me. Not that people put pressure on me to be a
By
certain,
default.
I
Yeah.
just felt
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
I want to make my mom proud because of all these things that happened. So essentially, that's kind of where, I feel like I started looking back and I said, when did I start feeling anxious or having bouts of depression? Because for so long, I just put it in a box in the back of my head. And then I just didn't deal with it. Like I can openly talk about it without crying. And then it wasn't until I got into my 20s that I realized I don't have a brother. You see posts of National Sibling Day. My friends have older brothers that are now getting married and having kids, or I'm interacting with my cousins who have siblings, and I already feel like a big piece of me, was missing. And then once I had kids, I was like, okay, I need to get therapy so that way I don't project my anxiety or like depression or me hovering over them. Like I want to be super aware of me, my thoughts, how I was raised, so that way I don't project that onto my children.
Yeah.
That's when I
Mm.
have to make the time to get therapy. I always knew that I needed it, like it would be a good idea, but I was just running track. I was doing a nursing school. I was trying to, do well in college. So I said, this is the time now. It's my responsibility as a mother to do this for myself, for my husband, for my children. And so that's essentially how I arrived at kind of like diagnosing myself.
Mm. Wow. I mean, there's so much to unpack from there, and thanks a lot, by the way, for sharing all of that.
Yeah.
Um, and I can just imagine you going from having a sibling to becoming an only child all of a sudden, and that desire to make sure that your mom never had anything to worry about, right?
Yes.
And I mean, being so young and just the responsibility that was just shoved on you, and having to handle that, but you're still young, you're still a child.
Yes.
And the question became who's going to take care of Millie? Millie taking care of everyone. And I
Yes.
imagine that still trickles down to today. But
That's all
I think
right.
if yeah, a follow-up question for you will be this. I realized that a lot of my wounds, like childhood wounds, were more
Mhm.
pronounced when I became a mom, right?
Yes.
And having to even understand my parents better. Because as a child, I blamed my parents for so many things, like they should have done this, should have done that.
Yes.
But becoming a mom, you realize that, oh my goodness, like how did they do it? So for you would be, how would you say becoming a mom changed just your understanding of perhaps what your mom went through or what you went through as a child?
Um, So it's actually kind of mixed feelings. Like it's kind of like bittersweet in the sense that um, when you have children, it makes you extremely vulnerable. At least for me, it makes me extremely vulnerable to my feelings, my thoughts, my surroundings, to self awareness and everything, as I said before. Um, so looking back, I definitely went down the journey of where did my parents go wrong with like the things that happened in my childhood. And that was around the time I decided, okay, I should do therapy because I felt myself getting really upset or angry because, you know, I would compare myself to the decisions that my mom made.
Mm.
And I would say, why would she allow us to be in this situation? Or why didn't she advocate for us? Or why did she do this? And why did she do that? And why didn't my father call? Why wasn't he present? Why didn't he try to see us? Like he was down the street and I have a wonderful husband that literally, if we were away for our kids for 5 minutes, we'd just be like, just panic. And so I'm just like, how do you love a child and allow certain things in life to dictate how you raise a child? And I said, I need to talk to somebody about this because my mother is also raised in her generation of you don't really talk about things.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
when I would try to talk to her about it, it would be a lot of denial, or I felt like there was no accountability. And so when I found this amazing therapist, I said, Mom, would you be open to doing therapy with me? We would have
Mhm.
separate sessions. And she did. She said, yeah, she did it. And she still, sees the therapist. And I've graduated from therapy, but my therapist is like, if you ever feel those triggers coming, call me. I'm a text away, blah, blah, blah. So it helped our relationship a bit, but I still have work to do. I still have work to do. And I feel like very good at taking the shoes off of myself and putting myself in someone else's shoes. I
Mhm.
think about the things my mom went through, raising us and going through a divorce. And then my dad went to jail. I mean, it was just a lot. And she was left essentially alone with two small children. And um, I give her grace for that because I can't imagine going through that. But I also am thankful, as painful, like you said, the wounds that we have as children. I'm thankful for my experiences because it helped me. I feel like it guided me into looking for what I wanted in a husband and what I wanted in a father and how the household I wanted to raise my children in. And like you said, as parents, we're like, wow, how did our parents do it in some of those situations? My mom would always tell me, like, I'm not a perfect person. And I am being transparent with you about the mistakes I have made so you cannot make those mistakes. And
Mm.
I'm thankful for her being honest about those things. But these were just things that I witnessed. And as a child, I thought this isn't normal or this isn't okay or this doesn't feel right. And so I have an open door with my kids to talk about feelings, their thoughts. And, it's a part of our discipline sometimes to initially just want to spank or to time out or to take something away, which are all methods of discipline that some
Yeah.
families agree on. And we do those things. However, we do talk to our girls like adults. If you're
Yeah.
feeling upset, tell me why you're feeling upset. It's okay to throw a tantrum. That's the developmental stage you're in, right? But
Yeah.
let's talk about why you feel that way. And it's okay to feel that way. And it's okay to be upset. We're asking you to share,
Yeah.
but let me know how you're feeling. And
Mhm.
and it's okay to be in that space. And so
Yeah.
but we do have boundaries. We do
Of
have
course, and we
boundaries.
have to
You
enforce
can't throw
those.
a
Yeah.
temper
Yeah.
tantrum in the parenting house, which they do, and you will get in trouble for that. However, it's important to establish boundaries.
Yeah.
So, like I said, so my journey of being a mother has just kind of been bittersweet in reflecting on how the decisions my parents made.
Made. Yeah. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
my therapist,
Well.
one thing I'll share is what my therapist said. You cannot, my main problem is trying to um,
Control.
obsess or control
Mhm.
the actions of others.
Other people. Yeah.
You always say, why? I would never do this. I would never do that. And maybe I'm right. However, I have to be responsible and take accountability for my own thoughts and
Yeah.
understand that I will never be able to control the thoughts or actions of someone
Other
else. And if
people.
I
Yeah.
try to, you will always be disappointed. You'll always be
Mm.
let down.
Mm.
And so
Mm.
that's a thing that I keep with me daily. I always tell myself.
Yeah.
I am in
Yeah.
control of myself and no one else,
No
right?
one else. Yeah. Yeah.
Mhm.
Whew, that's very profound. Um, I've also been through therapy, and one of the things that was revelations that I found out was uh ability to want to control things really stems from when you've been in a situation where you lost control, or
Yes.
when you did, like when you had a loss or you were abused or whatever you went through that kind of ripped out the curtain from under you, or the sorry carpet from under you. It felt like you wanting to like control things as a way of just giving some form of power back, but
Yes.
then it puts us into trouble because who can you actually change? You can't change anybody but
Yes.
just yourself. Yeah. So that was
Yes.
profound. And then back to your parenting thing, something happened this week with Ari. I was
Mhm.
mad at her, and I raised my voice a little bit. She's like, Mom, take a deep breath. And I'm like, not you recycling when I'm teaching you back to me. I'm like, but at
Yeah.
least she knows the lessons. And she's like, Mom,
Yes.
take a deep breath. Don't be mad. Take a deep breath. The
Yes.
next thing she's gonna say was count your numbers. I'm like, if you tell me
Yes. Is that more for you or for her to take a deep breath?
exactly right,
Yes. Mhm.
So I still want to hold some space for your brother Gavin, right?
Yes.
If Gavin were still here today, how do you imagine him? What do you think he would look like? What he would be passionate about, and what kind of uncle do you picture him being to your girls?
I do think about that. So, I thought about that maybe 2 days ago. And sometimes
Oh,
it makes me happy and sometimes it makes me very sad. But nevertheless, I think that he would be like, he and I had a very close relationship with my mother. So when I want to vent to somebody about my mother or whatever issues I'm having, like, if I talk to my husband about it, he's great. He's amazing. Like, he should be a therapist. But I would just say, what would my brother tell me to do in this situation? Like, it would be so nice to have him as a resource to say, hey, mom is doing this, or what she like. Recently, I moved my mom closer to us and she did not want to. And I
mm,
just thought, well, what would my brother tell her? And so it was just a very stressful or complicated transition for her. And now she's happy that she's moved closer. But and I understood that. I respected, her
yeah, yeah,
ability and where she was living. But it would just be nice to have somebody that's familiar with her to say, hey, like, this is how we should approach it. And my husband has 3 siblings, so I'm always hearing them game planning about life, their careers, about their parents, about our kids. And so it would just be nice to have somebody that knows you and that's known you since you were born to say, hey, what do you think about this? um and so I think that he would be a great resource for that. I feel like he would be a wonderful uncle. I think he would be someone to come over and play with the kids if he didn't, have kids and a wife himself.
yeah.
I also think he and my husband would have a wonderful relationship. My brother was extremely smart, and that was one of the things that I envied about him because I would have to
Mm.
study, 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 study to grasp one concept. He would be the type to fall asleep in class, and then the teacher would say, "What's the answer?" to try to embarrass him, and he would know it. Or I'd say, "Mom, I don't understand this question on my homework." He would be in the other room and he'd yell out the answer.
Can you imagine?
Mhm. And so I just think that, maybe he'd be an engineer or maybe in healthcare or something like that. But he was just so young where he was at 18. So he was still trying to figure himself out. And I would think, like, what was I doing at 18? Like, I've
Wow.
pretty much said, this is what I'm going to do. I created a path so it would just be digestible for my mother and there would be no surprises. But I just never really got to see his true interest. Like, I knew that he hated school because he was so smart. He'd say, Mom, I'm so bored with school. I want a challenge. Like, it's just too easy for me. And so I just imagine, I mean, I don't think he'd live here. I think he'd live like in another state and,
Yeah.
be executive or have a high powering job and maybe even be a creative. Like, he was a very creative person and he loved to cook with my mom, which is why she ended up opening a restaurant, which we can talk about later if you want to.
Yeah.
I think that's what he would be. I think he would be very successful living out of state and be a super hands-on uncle and son. Like, he would probably visit frequently.
Yeah.
He
Mm.
was a mama's boy for sure. So
Thank you for sharing that with us, and that was
yes,
very beautiful. All
thank
right.
you.
And we pray that he keeps resting in peace.
Yes,
Yeah, yeah.
thank you.
So let's talk about marriage and motherhood, right?
Yes.
Beautifully messy and endlessly rewarding. Let's start with how you met your husband. Shout out to Dr. Olulade, by the way, biology. Yeah.
Yes. Well, at the time I was a new nurse and I'd been there maybe a few months and I was finished orientation. So I was very like, I don't want to kill anybody. Like my goal was just to do all my tasks, keep everyone alive. And then he had come to the hospital. I think his first day I was off for a few days. And so when I got back, everybody's like, oh, have you seen this new doctor? I said, nope, nope, not interested. I don't want any work drama. I had
This is not
just,
Grey's Anatomy.
yes, nope, I don't, yep, I'm just focused on getting this blood drawn, keeping this patient alive, making sure my CPR skills are intact. Like I'm not interested. I had just gotten out of a relationship maybe a year or two prior, and I was still kind of healing from that and just wanting to take a breath and just focus on, my career as a new nurse. And it was just all these little this gossiping, and I'm sure it got back to him too. But deep down inside, I had longed for marriage and kids. Like anybody that knows me knows I've just always wanted to be married and have kids. And I started to think, well, you know what? I don't think I'm going to find anybody here, and that's okay. I'll move to Houston where my family is and have a fresh start after I've been a nurse for a year and I feel very comfortable with my skills. I'll move. Well, when I was reading my Bible, I decided I was going to make a checklist of all the things I wanted in my future husband. And there are about 20 things on there,
20.
but
Wow.
there are about 15 to 20 things. And I remember I just prayed over it. I put it in the back of my Bible and I put it away. And this had been, 2 years before I started working as a nurse. So shortly thereafter, there was a mutual friend that worked in the hospital that had known my husband back from medical school and residency that had transferred to Oklahoma City to work. And so he said, "Are you not married?" And I said, "No, I'm not." He said, "I have someone that would be perfect for you." I said, "I don't really know you like that. I don't know your friends. I don't know. I'm okay." He's like, "No, no, no. Just let me handle it." And I said, "No." So anyway, I said, "Well, who is it?" He's like, "Oh, don't worry about it." So this guy is Ghanaian and he's very, very mischievous. And so he's like, "Don't worry about it. I know what I'm doing." I said, "How do you know what you're doing and you barely know me?" Like I never even talked to him hardly at work. I just was very hi. And so he's like, I just have a feeling here. So next thing I know, like maybe a week later, my husband comes to me and he's like, "Oh, I heard your mom has a Creole restaurant. I'd love to try it. I've been in New York City. Now I'm in Oklahoma City." I said, "Oh, this is the person." No, 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 no. I ran off. I like ran away. "Oh, I have a patient calling. I'll talk to you later." He approached me again and was like, "Hey, this restaurant, blah, blah, blah." I said, "Well, here's the address. These are her hours of operation. Enjoy yourself." So he was like, "Well, I don't really know how to," but at the time I thought that his friend had said something to him, but no,
Yeah.
like he had just gotten out of a relationship too in New York. So
Okay.
I really was not interested in you. I didn't even think you were attractive. I just heard your mom had Creole food and I wanted to
It
try it.
was the food, Nigerian
It
man.
was the food. So I thought, but I'm thinking like he's like coming on to me and he's thinking, why is she acting weird? So it was just a complete miscommunication. So I told my mom about it. She's like, "Oh, just bring him. It's just a friend from." I was like, "He's barely even a friend from work. I don't know this
I
guy."
don't know it. Yeah.
So he asked again. I said, "Okay, I'll take you. I'll pick you up. This is where it is. It's kind of far out from where we were. So I understood why he would get lost. But I said, I'll take you." So we go eat at my mom's restaurant. And I said, "Mom, I'm reminding you, I have a colleague from work coming. That's all it is. I don't even know that. I don't even know his first name. Like, this is just, I know him as Dr. O. Like, she's like, "Oh, okay. Yeah, yeah." Well, my mom likes to embarrass me and I like to embarrass her too. So she comes out when the restaurant's about to close and she says, "Oh, I've heard so much about you. You're going to be my son-in-law."
Just swallow me right now, ground
I said,
mother.
"What? What? This is not a date. This is not. This is not." And then she tells everybody. So her restaurant was smaller, but she had a lot of regulars. So she says, "Everybody, look, this is my new son-in-law." I said, "You know what? Check. Actually, I'm not even going to pay the
Free.
check. We're
Yeah,
out.
it's free. It's
We're
free.
out.
Yeah.
It's free." We left. And I apologized. I was so embarrassed. And he was such a great sport about it. He's like, "Oh, no, no, no." And you know what? It was just like So we went somewhere else afterwards to have drinks. Even though I don't drink, I was like,
Mm-hmm.
we'll have a glass of wine just to kind
Mm-hmm.
of. I need a glass of wine after that, and
Yeah,
we had
yeah.
the most amazing conversation. And I said, I've never met anybody like this person. This person is going to be special to me. I don't know in which way, or if even if he knows it, but I would. It was just like I in my head, I dubbed him as like a prince. Like it was just so different from the guys here. That he spoke well, he was eloquent. He was. It was like he was telling me about how he was raised, and he was telling me about his academic structure. Now he went off to boarding school, and it was almost like wow. Like I just was so intrigued, and he was so respectful and polite. I mean, it was just like Prince Charming, but I said, I don't know what this is, but this is a good person. I'll dub him as a good person. He could be a good friend to me. And from that point on, we were inseparable. It just slowly started to progress. Well, I shouldn't say slowly, it started to progress as a friendship, but I very quickly realized this is who I want to marry. This is
Wow.
somebody I see myself with. And not only just for me, but this is the person that my future children deserve to have as a
As a father.
father. And I will do anything to make this work
Mm-hmm.
because I've never, it's kind of like if you grow up homeless and then you see like a big bar of gold. You're like, I don't know how I'm going to bring it back, but I know this is valuable and this could change my life. He
Yes.
was like that to me. I recognized immediately that this is an amazing man and he could change my life.
Yeah, yeah. And I want to imagine that the list you made that you talked at the back of your Bible, you probably checked all of that, right?
Let's
And some
revisit
more.
that.
Yeah.
Let's revisit that. So, about 6 months after I'd met him, I was reading my Bible and the list fell out. I completely forgot it was
Forgot
there.
about it.
It
Yeah.
fell out. And I was like, okay, let me compare. Out of like the 15 things or the 20 things, maybe there were two that he were missing. But I said, this is him. And I thanked God in that moment. And I feel like maybe my brother like helped maybe make that arrangement for me. And I said, this guy has, and some of the things that were on the list were not crazy things. It was like, I want somebody to be family
Mm-hmm.
oriented. I want somebody
Oriented. Yeah.
church going. I want somebody that has a big, loving, accepting family. I want somebody who's educated. I want somebody who's a little bit older because the maturity is there, right? I want somebody who wants to be in a committed, monogamous relationship and wants marriage. Like these are just like the foundational things. It wasn't like, oh, I want him to be 6'10" and do this and that and have muscles. It's like, no, I want him to be like, wanting to just socially, we like the same things, but it's
Yeah.
okay for us to be different. And I
Yeah.
also said one of the things I would like to do is date outside the box as far as like race. Maybe I should date someone who's from another country because maybe I'm limiting myself. And am I open to that? Am I going to be accepting to the differences that come along with that? And so I prayed about it, and I feel like God just completely blessed me based, off of my prayers. And the list just kind of reassured me that this was someone that was special.
Hmm. Thanks for sharing that. I should also add that I want to say that I think the work you've done, like therapy and knowing
Mhm.
the gaps you had in your life and what you imagined your future to be like. So having done that work, you're able to come up with a picture that feels that would be normal for you, and also preparing, the way for your future kids, knowing that you don't want them to go through everything you went through, right? So
Right.
kudos to the work you did, because without that, you probably wouldn't know what normalcy felt like. Taiwo just added being 6 out of 10 was a bonus, right? So Taiwo and Millie's husband worked together. Actually, Taiwo's
Yes.
boss is Millie's husband. So
Yes.
yeah. So thanks for kudos to you for doing that work, because you're able
Thank
to,
you so much.
imagine, and that's a note to therapy and doing the work, that we
Yes.
require to do within. Yeah. Now,
Yes.
it's said that when two cultures meet in love, it can be both a beautiful dance and a delicate negotiation, right?
Mhm.
And as someone who's Nigerian, I know we're very that when we're extra special in the sense of
Yes.
we live loudly. We're very, voracious, like we're voracious about life. It's all or nothing, right? So you are in an interracial, intercultural marriage, what
Yes.
would you say have been some of the unexpected joys and challenges of blending your background with your husband's Nigerian heritage?
Well, I feel like I was worried about that, but I've been so blessed. I mean, his family is just as wonderful as he is. They're very accepting. There were really, and so my husband came here from Nigeria at the age of 18. So he was
Okay.
very westernized, but still was a very proud Nigerian Yoruba man, right? So, but he's also like, so me being Creole, like a lot of the things aligned. Like our food is very, like Creole is basically, a lot of people don't know, but it's a mix of French,
Haitian, yeah.
Spanish, African, and then some European or Native American. So a lot of our foundational things of our cultures almost aligned. And so it just became a sense of who is he as a person, and then like what are his ambitions and things like that. So it really wasn't a cultural adjustment. It was more of like um, it was just more of like an individual thing. Like one of the things we needed to work on was communication, because we were
Hmm.
so different, and not necessarily that we were from different parts of the world, but we were just different individuals. And so I'm the type of person, when I'm upset or I want to talk, I want to do it immediately. Whereas he's like, I like to think, I like to ponder on my feelings, because I don't want to say something I don't mean in the heat of the moment, whether it be good or bad. And so, I was nervous about meeting his mom and his siblings, and they were also welcoming and loving. And I just felt like immediately, I just felt so comfortable. I felt like I'd known them all my life. And so, I even tried to make, I know when we were dating, I said, I'm going to make Nigerian food. Now, the thing is, I don't cook at all. My grandmother taught my mother to cook, and as I was growing up, my mom would say, "Come learn," and I just had no interest. I'd rather
You know
read.
how they say it skipped a generation.
I just it skipped a generation, but my brother would go and cook with her, and
Yeah,
then
I
I would
remember you
just
said
come
that.
down to eat, and I would help clean and whatever, but I do not like cooking. I said, "But you know what? He knows this about me," and I said, "If you marry me, just know there will not be any home cooked meals from me. And you wouldn't want that because it would taste horrible. However, my mother is an excellent cook. And part of the arrangement can be that she can cook. She knows she can
Black
make
meals, yeah.
Nigerian food.
Yeah,
She can make
yeah.
Creole food. It's just a package deal. So if you guys want to make that arrangement, that's fine. But for me, I'm gonna give you grilled chicken. I'm gonna give
Yeah.
you green vegetables and maybe a nice fluffy salad. That's how you. But I knew that food is so important in both of our cultures. And I know he loves to eat. So I said, you know what? I had time from work. I'm going to make all of this, Nigerian food. So I looked it up on YouTube, and I nearly caught my kitchen on fire. Like there was a big fire because they said to leave the oil on the burner, so that I was trying to make the stew,
Oh yeah.
a goosey,
Yeah.
and
Oh no. So blanch the oil. Yeah.
so when the
Girl.
oil was hot, I poured like the tomatoes in there, and then it like splashed everywhere. Then like the stove caught on fire, and it was like a big I don't. And so I had already invited him over for a certain time in the food. So he comes in, and like my glasses are melted and my shirt is like all oiled up. And he's like, "What have you been doing?" I said, "I wanted to surprise you." And you know what? It was just a gesture that I appreciated. I said, I would like to do this more often, but if I'm honest, I will probably never do this again for the safety of everyone.
I'm sure he was surprised because you wanted to surprise him. Yeah, he was surprised.
Yes. And I think like a week before, I said, you know what? I'm going to make grilled chicken. Like, let's start with that. It was so salty. And he said, I said, how's it taste? He's like, hmm. I said, does it taste like it's been in the ocean? So at that stage, I was just trying. Like I said, this is something I want to do for me. And it's also something I'd like to do, for him, because it's like we eat out all the time. Like, let's just make it fun. Well, it's not been fun since. And so now that I have 4 girls, I cook for the girls. And the other thing is, I don't like spicy. As a Creole person, I do not like spicy. And he
Oh
loves
wow.
spicy. So one time he made me his version of stew. And let's just say my stomach was, I felt like I swallowed a dragon. So we laughed about that for so long. So when I cook, it's like, I'm not going to make it very spicy, but he likes it very spicy. So he and my mother share a lot of the same foodie things. Like she loves spicy. She loves all ethnic food. So they always go back and forth with food. And I just say, well, I'll, have Taco Bell because so anyway, so other than that, we've been so blessed to have a smooth transition into marriage and the blending of cultures. And to represent that, one of the things we discussed when naming our children was Nigerian names will be the first name. Yeah. And then I said, well, I'll do French or Creole names for the middle names. And that's another way that we blended our cultures together through our children.
That's amazing. Mm-hmm. Have you visited Nigeria yet, by the way?
Have I ever been to Nigeria?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
No, I have. He's not been either. Like I think one of the things is it's just changed so much since he's been there. Yeah. And most of his family is here now in the States. So it's just not, and then he's so busy with work too. So one day it would be nice to go as a family when our kids are a little bit older.
Yeah.
Some of those places that he grew up in.
Yeah. And did you ever do your DNA ancestry to find out?
I did do my DNA ancestry, and I found out that I'm like 27% Nigerian.
Girl, I knew it.
And so now they have it where they'll tell you the tribe, and I am from the Yoruba tribe. I do have a lot of Cameroonian.
Yeah.
Ghanaian, like maybe 2 to 4% on both sides, but I'm mostly Nigerian. And then the other half of me, the DNA,
it takes a while. Yeah,
it evolves. So at first it was like, oh, you're Creole French, and so
more
now
data sets. Yeah.
I'm
the more people keep doing it, they're able to triangulate.
Yeah. Yes. So, but yeah, I was like, oh, okay. So even though I'm kind of like a Nigerian wife you always wanted.
yeah, with a little bit of extra.
Just a little extra, just a little extra splash of something.
Yeah. So sprinkle.
Yes. Sprinkle.
Oh wow, interesting. Yeah. So I think my last question for this block of question would be for people who are navigating, just the complexities of interracial relationships. What advice would you give to them for couples?
I think that it's good to, if you're not married yet, to talk about those differences because, communication is so big. That's like the main point I can stress. Whatever you have doubts about, or like I was so worried about meeting his mother. Like, am I supposed to curtsy? Am I supposed to address her a certain way? Is it okay to, he's like, my mom is not like that at all. Like I said, I know, but I still want to be respectful. Like, I know that it's your mom, but he's like, I promise you. And his mom is, so I just say that to say, communicate, express your concerns, just in marriage in general. It's always good just to talk and make sure you're on the same page. And I remember when I first met his family, like, his mom had made, it had like a stew, but there was tripe in there.
Okay. Saki.
Yes. And I was like, but you know what? I said, his mother brought this wonderful man into the world. I can try some tripe. I can. And then he comes over to me like a snail. And I'm like, what is that? He's like, it's a delicacy.
Escargot.
Yeah, I said, okay. So, I said,
what brand of Creole are you? You didn't have escargot growing up?
No, I did not have escargot. I didn't even have calamari. Oh. So I say that to say I was very open-minded. Yeah. My heart was ready. My mind was ready to accept. Yeah. So you have to be open. You can't be closed-minded and say, these are the things that I was raised or abide by, and I'm not willing to merge from that. It's a meeting of love, thoughts, beliefs, anything that you want to bring into a relationship. It's like it's somewhat of a compromise, and sometimes there are things that you don't compromise, which is okay. But definitely discuss and communicate everything. And I promise you, it just made for us just a smooth transition into marriage.
That's great. Thanks for sharing that. And I feel like every couple should have that as an advice, But I imagine that you being an interracial marriage, the communication part of it and the expectations should be, like, you have a reason to be more clear about that from the onset, right? Which is a gift.
Yes. Yes. And it stems back from when my mother met my grandfather. Her family, she's Creole and passing at that time in Louisiana. Yeah. So she had already had a relationship that she was expected to marry into with another man that was Creole. And she met my grandfather and she was just taken aback by him and she brought him home. And her father was like, absolutely not.
Was he European?
No, he's Creole, but he's
Oh,
passing.
oh,
But he's
passing.
no,
Okay, yeah,
he
white.
was passing.
Okay, yeah.
Yes. And he said no. And she said,
Mm,
I'm going to be with him. And she did. And
mm,
so, and my father is also of brown skin. My brother was brown skin. So all the men in my life have been brown skin. But my mom, I would always say, why do I look so different than my brother or from my dad? And she said, because you come from so many cultures and mixtures
yeah.
that when we are of color, you can become any color. And
Mm,
so even my kids asked me that today. And so I just pass that along that like my family was so accepting of my husband, and vice versa. And I'm just so thankful that my mom raised me, to also be that way. Like my grandmother, like you fight for love and it doesn't matter what anybody thinks. It's just, if this person is good to you and is worthy of you, then you just accept that and you
yeah.
make it work. But we
Keep it
both have
moving.
very accepting families.
That's great. That's great. Um, let's talk about your kids real quick.
Mhm.
Kudos to you and Biology for how you guys just do parenting,
Thank you.
and I think that raising girls in today's world can be both beautiful and terrifying. So, what would you
Yes.
say are your hopes and fears for your daughters?
Well, my fears for my daughters are to be mistreated in this world because of their skin color,
Mm,
because of their name, or because they're different in any way. My hopes for them are to do better than what their father and I have done for them, to be the most successful, to be the happiest, and whatever it is that they choose to do. I just want them to excel and I want them to be wonderful. And and we accept whatever path they decide to take, but I just want them to have a fair shot at life, especially in the current environment that we're in.
yeah.
It's just a concern, and I think about what if I had had a black boy, how.
Right. Oh, yeah.
So we definitely have those conversations, within our marriage, and then we talk to our girls about it. And like I said, now it's the issue where they go to a school where you could count on a handful of kids that look like them, and they're
Mm,
all dispersed throughout the school. So in their current grade, there's no one that looks like them, and so they come
mm,
home and they say, "I want to have this complexion of skin. I want this texture of hair. I want this color of eye." And I don't like my brown skin. And so I just try to instill them within them that every color is beautiful. Brown is
mm,
beautiful. Black is beautiful. Curly hair is beautiful. Textured hair is beautiful. Brown eyes are beautiful. Blue eyes are beautiful. And I just,
mm.
matter of fact, 2 days ago, my daughter said, I hate my brown skin. I don't like it.
Oh,
And I said, when you play with crayons, do you like to use the same shade every single
mm, mm,
said, no, I like to use all the colors. I said, so what if this world were a box of crayons where they were all the same color? Wouldn't that be so boring? You couldn't
mm,
make a beautiful picture or the artwork that you make. So
mm,
you contribute to a beautiful melting pot in this world and in our family. And that is how you need to look at it. So you're beautiful and you're exotic. And, when you have braids and your classmates have straight, long blonde hair, they might think, wow, I wish my hair could do that. Or I wish my hair looked like this. I said, so all the things that you dislike in yourself, it's beautiful.
yeah.
And so I just completely reiterate or constantly reiterate that.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I've done that through dolls. I noticed that all the brown dolls were being piled up in the corner and not being played with.
Mm,
Said, and I noticed that and I said, girls, come here. Why are all the brown dolls in the corner? We don't like to play with the brown dolls. They're ugly. I said, well, don't they look like you? And you're beautiful, and daddy's beautiful, and grandma's beautiful, and your aunts are beautiful. They said, yeah. I said, they look like them. I said, so how would you feel if somebody said, I'm not going to play with you because you look a certain way and they put you in the corner? How would you feel if your teacher did that to you? She didn't acknowledge you at school. You didn't get to eat lunch with everybody else because of the color of your skin. Wouldn't that hurt your feelings? Yeah, mom, that would hurt my feelings. I said, so it's okay to play with the dolls that are lighter shade, but let's bring the brown dolls back in. Well, that talk only went so far. So I just had to take all the other dolls, and I literally played with brown dolls for a week.
Oh yeah.
Play with brown dolls all week
Yeah.
until you can show me that you're going to be inclusive.
Kids.
So it's just a constant battle, and that's
Yeah.
okay. They're,
Yeah.
they're just
They're still young. Yeah.
they're
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
young and
Yeah.
impressionable, and that's what they
Yeah.
see every day.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's
Yeah.
just very important for me that they see their aunts and
To
uncles,
model that. Yeah.
mhm,
Yeah. 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 Wow.
and their family. And so, anyway, so that's one of the things that we go through. And I don't even know if that answered your question. I
Oh,
think
it did. It did. No, it did. There's so many layers to that
love
that I
that.
feel like even the listeners will get out of it. And I think the summary of this is that parenting is a full-time job, right?
It
Um,
is.
speaking of jobs, I've heard it said that sometimes the hardest goodbyes are to the dreams you've already achieved, right? And you didn't leave medicine because you weren't good at it. You reached the top of the peak of your career as a nurse practitioner, and I imagine that that kind of achievement doesn't come easy. So, are you able to walk us through what it felt like to step away from a career you had, worked so hard to build, and what did you have to grieve in that transition?
Yeah, I feel like I went through a phase of like imposter syndrome where
Mm,
you work so hard to get somewhere, especially me, because I have to study very hard to, get my degrees. And I take them very seriously. And I had so much pride in taking care of my patients, working with my colleagues, getting my master's. And then it's like, I do all this just to be a wife, a mother. And does that hold weight to me? No, I've always wanted to be independent. When I got married, I told my husband I still want to work maybe part time until I can go back to full time. And, while I'm a mother, like it was just so important to me to have my own identity, to have my own independence. And then after I have my first child, so my first two children are 13 months apart. So
Irish twins.
Irish twins, and I wanted to go back to work, but I realized this I have my hands full, and it's in the peak and in the height of COVID.
Mm,
So we decided the best thing for me to do was stay at home with the kids. And then after that, I had three. And then I had four. And so all my plans of maybe going back to work are getting pushed further away. And I realized that, as accepting and supportive as my husband is, he was like, if you ever feel like you want to go back to work, because my mom was an amazing pharmacist. And when she
mm,
had us, she took a break. And then 30 years later, now that we've all gone to college, medical school, grad school, whatever, she's working.
mm,
And it's possible. But if ever you feel like you want to do that or you're not, you're unhappy just staying at home, we can figure something out. But we just would talk about it and regroup every 6 months. How are you feeling about staying home? Do you want to go back to work? Do you want to? And the more kids I had, I just realized it's just impossible right now.
yeah.
And
Yeah.
so um, I just got to a point where I accepted that my role now is just staying with the kids, taking care of the house, some of the finances, keeping everything afloat. And as this was happening, my husband was becoming busier and busier with work, being spread across different roles and different facilities. And I saw the stress that he was going through. So I realized I have to be the one that's flexible. And me getting a job right now would be completely irresponsible. Our girls are still young and impressionable, and they need some sort of stability. And my husband needs me to be flexible.
Mm,
And so I've gracefully, accepted the role. And I also said, what else can I do to find some sort of fulfillment for me? Because right now it's just my life revolves around my kids.
mm.
So, like I told you before, when we first met about a television show I decided to write,
Oh
and
yeah. Yeah.
it was successful or not, it was just me having that free time to meditate and process like a creative part of my brain that I never even tapped on before marriage or kids.
Yeah.
And with that, I said, oh, okay, I want to write books. I want to do this. I want to do that. So it's just kind of like a temporary thing I look at. It's just a phase of life we're in. It's crazy. We're just trying to, stay afloat and just balance. You're just trying to find balance while also, I'm also very type A and very hard on myself about doing things right. I want everything to be perfectly. My husband say, well, why don't you get help at home? I mean, you have 4 kids. I don't want help. When I was in the hospital, I had nurse aides, no, I want to do it all myself. Like I just because I have a certain standard, and it's not that I don't think anybody can match that standard. It's just the control in me, right? That we discussed about being in control of
In
everything.
control. Yeah.
And so my husband will say, one thing he'll say is, you don't want to be so right that you're wrong. It's
Hmm.
great to want to take care of your kids, but at what expense? You know, if you're getting more rest or you have support in the household, then you can be a better mother, you can be a better wife. So I'm
Yeah.
not forcing the issue on you, but I just want you to be aware that I'm okay and I'll help you find support if that's what you feel like you need.
Wow.
So
Thanks for sharing that. It's so many layers to that, and
yeah,
especially vulnerability. And I imagine that someone who's type A like me, it's also trying to talk to that voice in your head that makes you feel less than when you are seen to be. Because I feel like motherhood, like being a stay-at-home mom, we don't really value that in our society, but it's a lot
yes,
of work. It's a lot of work. Is a huge sacrifice, because you could go back to work, and then whatever you're earning is probably going to go into childcare, which can even make
right.
for a very messy situation. I know everyone has that luxury. So for those who are able to
Yes.
do it, can we just support them? Like, it's about choices, and people that are trying to make that work. I feel like we should have more conversations about, just supporting people through that. So thanks for shedding
Yeah.
more light on that.
Yes,
Yeah.
and I will add that in our community, especially as Black women, you think, "Oh, you're so strong and you wanna do everything yourself and you don't need help." And I felt like that, and I still feel like that, but I feel like it's okay to have help too. So I'm still like, once I had my 4th child, I was so big, I couldn't even get up the stairs to clean.
Mm,
And my husband
mm,
said, "At the very least, can we have someone come every 2 weeks to clean so that way
complain.
it
Yeah,
takes some load off of you?" And I said, "Okay, I'm okay with that." But then you get judged when people say, "Oh, you have someone clean your house? You're a stay-at-home mom. What do you do all day?" And then I've had the complete opposite where people are like, "I was a stay-at-home mom. It literally drove me crazy. It's the hardest thing in the world.
it's
I
hard.
had to go back to work. I don't see how you just stay with babies all day." So I think that it's just like an individual choice and what you're okay with. And either one is okay. Like I can't imagine not sleeping all night from a baby being up and then having to go to work and then come home and then have dinner cooked, baths ready, homework done, put to bed. And some people say it's so much easier when you can go to work because you can talk to adults. You
The
can
shifts. Yeah,
and
yeah.
I don't see I'm like, I still don't see it, but so I think the key is to just support whatever choice we as women or mothers
Choose. Yeah,
decide to
choose.
make, and
Yeah,
whatever
yeah.
that looks like.
Exactly. And motherhood is not one linear path, right?
Exactly.
Um, you have an intermission right now where you're taking care of your girls. Maybe in the next 20, 30 years, you might decide to go back to work. But you guys decided for your family, this is what's going to work for you.
Right.
And that's it. That's something that anyone should get back on, because there's no one path that is prescribed for everybody. It's doing what
Exactly.
works best for your family. So thanks for shedding light into that. And you're
Yes.
very capable. I know that whatever you do, you're gonna do it well.
Thank you
So
so much.
yeah, yeah,
I could
yeah.
just kiss you through the screen. You're just so sweet. You are such, and I know this is a side note, but this week I've been thinking and praying about the podcast, and not that I was nervous, but I was just so honored. And I think about, the first time I met you, and you're very quiet and you can be stoic, but you just immediately took to me and I took to you. And I just went home and told my husband, like, she is such a beautiful person on the inside, and that what a like an amazing woman. And then I didn't even know about your podcast, and then you're telling me all the things you do, plus you work, and then you've been doing all these things with your children. And I'm just like, you are just such a, like, every once in a lifetime you meet someone. I can maybe count on one hand. You meet someone and I don't want to cry, but that is
I'm
just
crying already.
beautiful. And that
I
is
feel the same
you.
about you
You
too.
are the epitome of beauty. You're intelligent, you're capable, you're kind, you're amazing. And I'm like, how did I get so lucky to meet you by chance? Like, I never go out because I'm at home with the kids. So my husband will go to a lot of our work events, and then we just so happen to sit next to each other. And I was just so taken aback by you, and I still am. And I just want to say thank you for just being amazing. And, with your podcast, just sharing that love and the conversations that need to happen. But you are just a once in a lifetime person. And I'm so grateful that I was able to meet you and befriend you. And so that's all I wanted to say.
Really, what you said to me right now is exactly how I feel about you.
Oh,
When Taiwo told me about biology the first time, I'm like, wow, because where he was working before, he didn't have a very good experience. And when
yeah.
he told me about biology, I'm like, in Oklahoma, like, wow.
Yes.
So knowing me before meeting you, I kind of had an idea of, I imagined what you would, look like, because biology is married to this person, and we never really had a chance to kind of talk because it was during COVID and we never got to meet.
Yes.
But the party last year, right? And I
Yes.
had shared with you some of the things I was going through with RA
Mhm.
school and all that.
Mhm.
And then you were like, text me anytime. You hear that a lot. People say, oh yeah, just text me anytime, or and but they never respond for whatever reason. And I never try
Mhm.
to hold people, against this kind of empty promises. But you're
Yeah.
just your intentionality. Because I was a mess last year, as you could tell.
Mhm.
You were very open. You shared so many tips with me, and I thank you for that because it's really helped me a lot, especially how I reacted to navigating the school system and providing support for RA,
Yeah.
and just even the books you shared with me, the resources you shared with me. So yeah, you're beautiful as well, in and out,
Yeah.
and I'm glad that our paths crossed. And thanks for just the many things you do. I'm gonna even ask more about your skits and all that because I'm like, how does she even do it? The funny mimes and the craziness. I'm like, there's a bit of spicy
Yeah.
fajita flavor in this person, and I want to explore that. So thanks. And I should just make a small correction. My friends are probably rolling their eyes when you said I was quiet.
Yeah.
Meaning
Well,
I'm not quiet.
you had like, okay, when I saw you, and maybe it was
Yeah,
just my perception, or maybe it
yeah,
was not that I'm not intimidated by anybody. I'm just a lover. I just get that
yeah,
from my mother. But
yeah.
you, maybe the word I should use is you just had this regal stoicness about you.
Girl.
And then when you started to speak, I was like, oh my gosh, she's so amazing. She's so smart.
I
And then
observe a
when we
lot when
friended
I
each
get
other
into
on
a new
social
space.
media, I saw that you were like a pharmacist, you had all this stuff. And I'm like, wow, because actually we met at the Christmas party a few years ago, but it
Yes,
was like
yes,
the kids were running around and I said hi and you were so sweet and warm. And then that was just kind of it. And then I was
yeah,
watching the kids, making sure they didn't
yeah.
tear someone's house.
I know, because
Ari
my daughter's that way too.
was
Very
like
active.
having a thing, like the girl, and it was just so I was familiar with you, but my impression I first got was, oh, she may be quiet because I remember you were kind of off to the corner while the kids were playing. You probably taking a break.
It was because of my daughter. I didn't want her, touching this. That
Yeah,
was
so
it.
I just thought, well, maybe she's quiet, but you're very
Yeah,
friendly, but maybe
yeah.
shy. I don't know. So when I sat next to you, you're just like, I was like,
Really? No, I did.
yeah. And I was like, oh my gosh, she's so beautiful. And I was like, look at you. And so anyway, so I thought, but yes, I quickly found, no, you're not quiet. We were just the whole night. Like,
I didn't know how crazy it was. I started going through your TikToks. I'm like, oh my goodness, like.
that's another thing. I get some people. So I've always lived two lives. So when I would do sports, I'd want to do cheerleading. When I would do academics, I want to do acting. When I can be, so the people that would see me in class, I have my glasses on. I'm just like a nerd. And then outside of class, I'd be like, "Grr," and they'd be like, or they assume, oh, you're light complected, you're stuck up, you're not a nice girl. And then when they talk to me, like, wow, you're so amazing. I didn't think. I'm like, so I don't know. I don't know, but I'm just a very open book. I hope that I'm usually typically approachable. I look, and so I just say, I'm me. Then that's why I don't judge a book by its cover because I'm like,
Yeah,
people do that to me. And so, and
yeah,
like you said, I feel like one thing as a mother that I wish I could be better at is being so responsive. Like if I didn't have four girls, I would love to go to lunch with you. I'd love to like talk to you on the phone. And there's so many like relationships that I feel like I miss out on because I'm so committed to my kids to the point where I don't have any self-care. I don't make any time for myself. It's completely unhealthy, which that's why I was in therapy. But I'm like, there's so many beautiful women or couples that we could go to dinner with or that I could meet with and talk with and share
yeah,
with and receive with. But and so sometimes you'll text me and I'd be like, oh, I need to get back. And I would start, and then my kids take my phone. My kids hide my phone. They put it under the couch and And by then somebody's got poop on the floor, and then the dishes need to be, and then it'll be like 24 hours before I get back. And I've always just been like military style. Like everything needs to be clean. I need to be on time. I respond with the promptness. And so I just say, I hope that it's not a reflection on how I feel on the inside.
No,
But
it's very understandable. You also you always reply. You always
yes,
reply,
I
and
always
oh
reply.
yeah, yeah,
And you
yeah,
too. And I'm like, she's
yeah.
probably at work, and then now it's late. She probably has to get up in the morning. So then I make a note to text in the morning, but then my morning is just, you understand, I'm sure.
Parenting has taught me to be
Yes,
more flexible with timelines, because in my head
yes.
sometimes I've replied, but I realize, oh my goodness, I didn't hit send.
You didn't hit
So
send, or you
extending
do,
grace.
but it just doesn't
It
send.
doesn't send. Yeah, so no, you always reply, and I know that you're so busy with everything you do, so I never take it, oh no, she's not responding to me,
Yeah.
or I know whenever you get to it and you're able to, you would reply. So thank you for always
Yes.
showing up.
Thank you.
So let's talk about your other life. Like so last year when we met again at that
Mhm.
event, and you had told me about your Instagram page, but you gave me a warning, like, by the way,
Oh,
I'm
yes.
crazy on them.
It
I'm
might
like,
not be your forte or your cup of
how
tea.
how crazy can she really be? And I'm like, oh no, she really
Crazy.
meant it. So
Crazy.
your skits, your mimes, they're not just funny. I feel like they feel like lifelines for so many,
Uh,
moms, including myself. Because you talk about everything: parenting, cleaning, hiding your Amazon haul from your husband.
yes.
Because
Oh,
so like I can relate to that.
yes.
What inspired you to use humor as a way to tell your story, and how do you see it serving as a bridge to help other women, feel seen, supported, and a little less alone?
I feel like sometimes I've always been the comedian. Like I love to do pageants, not so much for the showing of it, but it was a way for me to make friends because I'd be so busy in class, and then we'd have pageant practice. I never ever won a pageant. I always come in last, but I never had a talent. I was never well put together, but I just enjoyed it. I enjoyed the camaraderie that you make with like random girls across campus or in high school. And so one of my talents that I can't sing, I can't dance. I quit playing the piano early. So it's like, what can I do? So I would do comedy, and I would just be like, I hope somebody laughs. And I take myself very serious, but not too seriously. And so sometimes I've always wanted to start a YouTube channel. I've always wanted to be on television. I always want to get on social media, but I worry about what people think about me. The perception that like how it's going to affect my family if I say something wrong or I put this out. How now that I'm married, how it's going to affect my husband, how it's going to affect my kids. And will people think I'm weird? Will people think I'm a nerd? And so I'm just like, you know what? It's comes from the heart, and these are things that I'm going through as a mother. And sometimes you have to laugh to stop the crying, right? And so,
Right.
like, I was so nervous, like, for instance, about getting my girls' ears pierced. And I said, you know what? Somebody else may be going through this. I don't know what's going to happen, but let's go on the journey together and make it fun. And it's also just me being creative. And I feel like it's making digital footprints of like my life. And I like to look back on these things and say, something I'll never be ashamed of is I put that out there because I loved it. It may have not gotten 100 views. It may have gotten one like, which is from my mom or from my husband or from one of my secret accounts. But I enjoy making it. I enjoy the process. Like when I put my girls down to sleep, I'll say I'm going to give myself 30 minutes to like edit this video, and then this is like a piece of art for me because I don't know how to draw. I can't paint. So that's just a way for me to like express myself in a fun way and sometimes serious, and it's just clean, healthy comedy and or just like what I see. And so anyway, so I just said, you know what, I'm going to commit to this. And one of the things that I was honest, like told often was sometimes I pause in like my speech because my brain is so tired. So I'm like trying to find the word. Like I had maybe
We
3
all
hours.
struggle with that, Millie.
I'm
Don't
a
worry, you're
little
good.
sleep, right. So when I was pitching this show over the years, people want to know how many followers do you have? How much money are you making? How many subscribers? Do you have a YouTube channel? What's your TikTok? And I'm like, I don't have any of this stuff.
Yeah.
And these producers and these networks were saying the new celebrity are influencers, social media people. So we're not even looking to put celebrities like Beyonce on TV. We want to put the girl that has 1 million followers on TV because she's
Mm,
just bringing so much more. She can touch a broader range of people than like Julia Roberts, who we would give a brand deal to. So I said, well, this is perfect because I'm trying to express myself here and show who I am, but also I'd like to have a page where directors, producers, networks can say, oh, this is this girl's personality. In the meeting, she was so stiff and serious, or she was a little weird. But this like kind of shows a blended version of her, like with her family or by herself or with whatever is going on. So it was kind of like a mix of both worlds for me, where it's like a professional thing I'm trying to do, but I don't worry about subscribers or followers.
Right,
It
right.
will come or it won't come, but I still enjoy it. And
Yeah.
sometimes I don't post for 2 weeks because my life is crazy. I've already filmed the content, but I don't have, like, I just put out a video last week that I made back in January when it was cold outside and the girls had their coats on. And I'm like, are people going to notice that they have their coats on? And like, and I said, you know what?
Who cares? Yeah,
Is
yeah,
I made it. It's a piece of my art, and maybe
yeah.
someone will like it. Maybe it'll help somebody. Maybe it'll make somebody laugh, and they just come across it. I said, so this is just me. Like I just give you what I can when I have time.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, what a thanks for sharing that, by the way. And I feel
Mhm.
like as a creative, that's that delicate dance with being
Yeah.
true to your calling and authentic, but also at the same time not getting bogged down by the counts and the, how many likes, how many, what was your analytics? Like, I don't care about it. I just wanna, if I'm just speaking to one person, that's okay by me. It's why, I'm not doing it to get viral or,
Right.
be out there. I just want to keep, spreading the message. And if it reaches one
Yes.
person, I get one like, that's fine,
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah,
Thanks,
yeah,
Mom.
yeah. Thank you. Thanks for sharing that. And I feel that kind of sex with that's like a way of you also practicing self-care. It's your way
Yes.
of also mirroring not just what you're currently doing, but also keeping an archive for the future. So by the time your girls, grow older, they get or see mom. Something profound that was shared with me a while back was 3 generations from now, you'll be forgotten, like
Yes.
your name and who you were. And I'm like, wow, you mean someone is gonna forget me? Like my great
Yes.
grandkids, like let's fix that.
Yeah.
Podcast time,
Love
you'll hear
it.
my voice to perpetuity. You remember who
Yes.
I was, and I came and I came, I
Yes.
saw and I conquered. You will not forget me,
Yes.
So
Yes.
we're fixing that.
Yeah.
So back to
And
self-care. Yeah,
let
go
me
ahead. Go
interrupt
ahead.
and say
Sure.
that I'm sure with Ari, like she may see the preparation and the hard work you do.
Yeah.
And then she may say, I want to do something like that. And
Yeah.
she may take on that legacy. Like two of my daughters, like the 2-year-old, she is just too much to kind of put on. She can't stay still to like make a video.
Yeah.
The older two will make one, but the older one, she's always like, if I do this, you better give me a sucker. I'm only doing this because I want something from you. Are you going to buy me that doll? And I'm like, fine, because I get it. I want a barter or two. But then
Yeah.
the other one, she just loves to be in front of the camera. She's like, Mom, take a picture of me. I want to dance. I want to be an actress. I want to be a singer. I want to be a dancer. And so now she's like, Mom, can we make an Instagram video today where we're just dancing to my
Oh.
favorite song right now? Or can you post me in my new outfit? Or can I say something? And I'm like, I still try to protect them a little bit.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
it's just like she just sees that. And if she says, oh, Mom, you put on makeup today. Do you have a video to make? Because otherwise I don't.
Ah!
You know this is a wig. So I get, well, why do you look like that? I'm like, well, I want to be somewhat respectful to most podcasts and be presentable. But they're like, oh, you normally don't look like that. You should put
You
on.
look
Why
beautiful.
do you
It's the
not
kids.
do?
It's
Yeah,
kids.
they're like, you should wear. You're like, Mom. That's what they said last week. Mom, you always dress us so nice and you brush our hair. How come you don't dress nice and brush your hair? I said, because there's 4 of you. And I want to make sure that all of you are
By the
taken.
time I'm done, I'm spent. Oh, these kids, they will humble you.
They will humble you.
Oh, all right. As a roundup, let's talk about self care a little bit, right?
Yes.
You're a caregiver in every sense of that word. Like, how do
Mhm.
you take care of yourselves when so many others depend on you?
Well, I do it in unhealthy ways. I'll eat a bag of candy or, and the thing that I know we're all guilty of. So this video I made, I put it on TikTok on my nursing page and like that was probably my viral video, but it was like I'm the person who's so tired all day and I look forward to bedtime where I can rest, maybe shower, wash my hair, wash my face, change my clothes after I've been in them for 3 days. But then I'll stay up and I'll just watch documentaries or interrogations until 2 o'clock in the morning. And then my baby is my 1-year-old. She's up every 2 to 3 hours. So I'm tired and I watch those videos or YouTube in between. I'm so happy. It makes me so happy. And yet I'm so tired. And I say, okay, tomorrow night I'm going to do better. I'm going to go to bed by 10 o'clock. When the baby, and my husband says, why are you up watching those documentaries? When the baby goes to sleep, you need to go to sleep to get some sleep. Or, we don't, my husband and I, like if he's home, he'll help me feed the girls, but I feed the girls and I put them to bed because I don't want to eat with them.
Yeah.
Because it's like, I want a moment where my husband and I, we can eat together in silence, watch something together, talk. But if you're eating in front of your kids, I want that, I want that, I want this. And then it's just another distraction. So for me, one day I'd like to have dinner as a family. And they're like, Mom, how come you're not eating with us? I'm like, because I want you to eat. So when they eat or when they go to bed, I eat. I maybe talk to my husband. And some days we have our days where we're like, I'm all talked out.
I just need some time. Yeah.
Presence, or I'm going to go in this room, you go in that room, and I just want to watch my show because I'm so overstimulated.
Stimulated. Yeah.
Sometimes I just want to listen to music and just lay in the bed or just sit in the shower. And so, my therapist would say, why don't you go get your hair done or your nails done or massage, or why don't you go shopping? I don't enjoy that. I don't like people touching my hair. I don't like people picking at my nails and scrubbing my face or scrubbing my feet. You have to sit there for 2 hours. It's just not me. I'm not going to go off to Target. Now I will spend a lot of money on Amazon.
Amazon is different. It's a different kind of retail therapy.
Amazon is just different. It's just different.
Next day shipping, are you kidding me? You can always return.
It's just different, and it's just so amazing. And I wanted to shop and on Amazon at midnight and just order up stuff. And then I do sort of like enjoy getting those boxes and then hiding them.
Yeah.
It's just
the back of the car. I'm like, this old thing. Is this new? I don't know.
Yes.
Old thing from yesterday. Yeah.
Yeah, like it's just a fulfillment. But these are not things that I would recommend because they can become a form of addiction.
Yeah. Like everything else you do, overindulging. Yeah.
Everything else. So sometimes I'll say, you know what, I have a little bit of extra energy. I'm going to edit a video, or I'm going to contribute some thoughts towards these books I want to write, or this, I need to reach out to some producers for this. So I'll try to be more productive. But sometimes that Amazon is just calling. Yeah. And I answer and I say, I'm coming. Hello. But I would like to order these things. So yeah, I'm the worst case of self-care. But I just kind of have to do things. And my therapist is like, you need to step away from the house. You have to go for a walk and listen to music. That's not self-care to me. I don't like outside. It's going to be hot. Then I have to come home and take a shower. Then I'm wondering it's just more stress for me. Yeah. So self-care for me is just watching a documentary or an interrogation and, eating something I enjoy, or spoiling myself with ice cream, maybe 10 scoops instead of one, and then I won't eat it for a week. But anyway, so I'm the worst person to ask that question to, because I do not participate in self-care at all.
But I think you do it already. You just have different outlets for it, right? And and I think most of us are that way. Like, we know the healthy ones we do and the not so healthy ones. But also having a good balance of it. Isn't that what makes us human at the end of the day?
Yes.
Yeah. We should be more gentle with ourselves. Yeah. And then so self-care, Jen, I feel like that part of self-care often also involves how we sit and also treat our own bodies, and especially after childbirth, nursing, and everything in between. Can you talk about your relationship with your body and how it has evolved through pregnancy, postpartum, and then beyond?
So I've always been very active. Whether it would be working out, once I was no longer active in sports, I would still take care of myself, just out of habit, like it's conditioned in me. And then once I got pregnant, I did notice the changes. I had my first baby, and then my body was kind of trying to go back, but I didn't give my body enough time to go back to how maybe it would have been, not maybe exactly before, but I immediately got pregnant. And then I was like, okay, so I definitely had the weight gain, the baby fat, and it was just, I could not lose the weight. And then when I would lose maybe 10 pounds, I'd still be like, I'm traditionally about 150, 145 in weight. But when I would get pregnant, I'd get up to 220 pounds, 230 pounds. And then by the time I'd have another baby or I'd get pregnant again, I'd be about 175. So you're still adding on that.
Adding more, yeah.
30. So it was just back and forth. And I have really large children. And so it was after the fourth pregnancy that I was like, wow, like, my body's, I don't recognize it. And I'm okay with that. My husband doesn't judge me off of that. And I just feel like really judge myself based too much on the outside. Is more of like the inside. Am I happy? How am I treating others? And so if I'm confident in who I am to other people, then that's all that matters to me. But I said, you know what? I do need to make healthier decisions. Like I need to not eat so late. Now that the baby, I'm not breastfeeding, I don't have to eat so much. Like and maybe I should stop eating at 7. But then my husband gets home at 7. We eat about 8 o'clock. So there was just some things I said I do want to kind of, now that this is going to be our final baby, I want to change, like do better for myself and kind of work on my appearance. I do want to arch my eyebrows sometimes. I do want to brush my teeth. I do want to, brush my hair, condition it. And I want to lose some weight because I can't fit any of my clothes. And so, I said, but I don't have time to work out. So I said, I'm gonna have to make time. So we had a Peloton, and then I downloaded some of the beach body programs you can work out at home. So I would do that. I've always been accepting of other people's, if you want to get plastic surgery, that's great. I would never do it because I see the horrible things that happen. However, I will say in the last 6 months, once we've decided, okay, we're not going to have any more kids, I've lost the baby weight. Everything is just hitting gravity, right? And it's not to the point where it's like a vanity thing where I like care what I look like, but it's more about how my clothes fit. So I have a thin waist now, but I have a huge, like all this excess skin that hangs over. And when you're consuming social media, whether it's TikTok, Instagram, you're seeing people so comfortable. Like to me, it was so shocking how like I always thought plastic surgery was like for people that are celebrities. Like that's their job, is to look a certain way and present themselves a certain way. But so I thought it's just so far-fetched and out of reach. Then I'm starting to see everyday people like us getting tummy tucks and Botox and this and rhinoplasty, this and this. So you start thinking, wow, maybe I want some of that. Maybe plastic surgery isn't so bad. So I started talking about it. I was like, I wouldn't mind like a little tummy tuck. Like he's like, why? Why do you care? I said, I don't care like what people think or what people see. It's for me. It's for me. So that way I can wear the clothes I want to wear, like my jeans, and my stomach isn't hanging over. It's uncomfortable. And he's like, is it really worth putting yourself on anesthesia? You have 4 girls, so your stomach, he's like, and if that's like self-care to you and that's important to you, I don't want to judge you, but like, let's talk about why and what it's going to do for your self-esteem or for you psychologically. And if you get this done, are you going to say, I want this done and this done and this done? Like, where does it stop? And I just want you to know that I love you and I support you. I think you're beautiful the way you are. And he said, and when I see stretch marks and excess skin, I see that as this woman who gave birth to 4 of my children. That's beautiful to me. And for you to take that away, I get it. But like, it's completely unnecessary. And so I do have those battles with like wanting that now, because it's like, oh, I see this and I see that. And I'm like, well, does it really matter at the end of the day? I mean, it's for you to decide as an individual. And then your kids say, Mommy, why is your stomach so big and there's no baby in there anymore? It's like, because there were 4 of you in there. This was your old house and you stretched it out. It's like a balloon. And now that there's nothing in there, we just have all the excess. And they're like, oh, we don't like it. It looks funny. And then they play. And then I'm just like, you know what? Then I say, okay, maybe I do want a tummy tuck. So I'm not, but there are some things I would like to change. But I realize that if I'm comfortable with the way I am, why change it? But then also, why not change it? Yeah. So that's kind of like the current battle. Like, it's like once you have 3 or 4 kids, your body, for me, completely changes. All my hair fell out. Before I had the postpartum shedding, it was just kind of around the hairline. And then with this 4th baby, all my hair is just coming out in clumps. Wow. And it's like things about my body I don't recognize, like these changes. I didn't have those with the other 3. And my doctor was like, this is because when you have a 4th, it's like a 4th child mark. All the things that you had before are intensified by 10 when you have that 4th child. Labor and delivery was different. Postpartum was different. Like everything was completely different. So I'm like, maybe it's just like the 4th baby blues. And I just like completely, like I could kind of see myself in after the other pregnancies, but the 4th one, I was just like, oh my gosh, I feel like I've aged so much. And there's nothing wrong with aging. Yeah. Like I'm still young and like, why should I have this or why should I have that if I don't have to? So I figured the least I can do is just work on the weight and, work on just the hygiene of it. Like, how about you take a shower every day? That's a good start. How about let's work on brushing your teeth twice a day and flossing and taking a shower. Like, those are good
A
places.
win is a win is a win.
Exactly. So yeah, it's still something that I think about and I struggle with, but I don't let it dictate like my perception or my perspective of like real life, if
Wow.
that makes sense.
It's thanks for sharing that. That was very vulnerable, and I can say this with, the highest degree of accuracy, that there's so many of us that feel that way. And it's funny how, looking at you, I couldn't have been able to tell that you struggle with that, because you always look beautiful,
Mm,
always look
thank
beautiful.
you.
But thanks for sharing, just those internal struggles
Mhm,
and normalizing it, right? And you've got, I mean, 4 kids. I mean, that's a whole lot that has, come through
mhm,
you, and here you are still standing, and not just doing
mhm,
that, you're thriving so hard and doing life with your kids, and
mhm,
every day grinding and grinding and trying to put everything together. So
mhm.
I mean, just kudos to you and Balaji, and
Thank
just
you.
an amazing story and
Thank you
life that
so
you
much.
have. Yeah,
Thank
yeah,
you.
yeah. As we go, I'm curious to know what you'd like your um what kind of legacy you're trying to leave behind, especially for your girls and the people you inspire online.
Ah, that I feel like with what we see now is so different than what we would see like on social media or television 10, 15, 20 years ago. And so for me, I just like to bring an organic realness to whatever I'm putting out there, whether it be on social media or with my daughters or, just with people that are my friends or family. I feel like we're just so engrossed in what's not real. And sometimes people aren't very transparent. So my thing is like one of the things that I teach my girls is just being honest and being transparent and being comfortable in your skin, whether that's inside or outside. And just accepting that I'm not perfect. I have flaws. I can each day I can, better try to better myself and learn from something I did yesterday, especially when it comes to parenting. Like I'll look back and say I could have done that better.
Yeah.
And my husband and I, we serve as kind of like a ping pong ball for each other, for instance. So if let's say I'm, a little rough with the girls, like in meaning like I'm short with them because, I've been exhausted, he'll say, hey, like what's going on? Da, da, da. And I will come to them and say, hey, mommy should not have yelled at you that way, or mommy
Mm,
should not have reacted that way. Yes, it's normal to have these emotions, but sometimes it's okay to apologize and humble yourself and give
yeah.
yourself or the person grace and as an adult. Because I feel like in our generation and before, your parents never admit when they're wrong, right? It's like,
No, no.
but it's
Yeah,
with my
yeah,
kids, I'm like, mommy was wrong. Or my husband will say, daddy should have been more patient with you. You just, whatever the case may be. And so they'll say, well, they realize like, okay, my mom or my dad is like showing me a vulnerable side to themselves. Like they're going back on what they just said, like I'm in trouble because I did this, but they're apologizing to me. And so I've learned and witnessed in my children that that is definitely a remarkable decision to make because they will come to me and act out. And if they have a timeout or they have time to think about it, they'll come and say, you know what, I was wrong. So my oldest, she's kind of the sassy diva one. And she said, you
I
know what?
wonder where she gets that from.
I really don't because I wasn't like that growing up. It's like, but I have it inside, but it's like innate for her. It's like inherent for her. And she'll say, you know what, mommy? I think I want to behave today. I want to do everything you asked me to
She'll
do.
say that. I
She
want to
said
be here, so she knows it's a
she
choice.
knows it's a choice. And she says, and I'm sorry about how I acted yesterday. I could have done better, but today I want to be a good girl and I want to do everything right. I want to obey and I don't want to cause any problems. I say,
That
okay.
is
And I
cute.
said, and if you do, that's okay. Because I don't want to set the expectation that like she's just because she said that she can't go back on her word, but she's trying.
She's
And I said,
trying.
and
Yeah.
it's okay if you get upset today and you don't want to share something or you cry or you get angry. That's okay. but I appreciate the fact that you're coming to me and you're apologizing for your behavior yesterday, and you're saying you want to attempt to make a change
Better.
today.
Yeah.
And so that's what I want to instill in my girls, is that it's okay to like make a mistake, and it's okay to be honest, because sometimes we make mistakes, we just want to cover it up and hope nobody notices, because we want
Yeah.
to keep
Yeah.
this,
The shame from it.
you
Yeah.
want to keep the shame, and you want to
Yeah.
keep the image of perfection or like
Mm-hmm.
confidence. And so sometimes when people apologize, it's like, do they not have the confidence in like what they said? They don't have the belief behind what they said. No, it's just that maybe I was wrong, or maybe there's another way to see things. And so that's one of the things that we're constantly trying to, balance with our kids, because it's like they are still children too. And
Yeah.
as a husband and wife, you do have to be a united front as parents, because it's like they will seep out,
The
like
cracks.
they will seep out the cracks. Oh, mommy, I want a sucker. Well, why can't you ask your dad? I'm giving a bath. Well, because he'll say no. So
They can say, even before Ari could talk, she'd play both of us and realize that, oh my goodness,
yes,
how did she
they just know it's
you know
survival
it?
of the fittest, especially in this
Yeah.
house. So I just want to teach my girls that it's okay to make a mistake. It's
Yeah.
okay to go back on your word about something if you were wrong. And it's okay to be sorry. And, it's okay to be right. And, like my sister-in-law, she has a very strong personality like me. And our girls are like that. And she says, don't try to diminish who they are as people, because it's
Mm.
great that they're exhibiting confidence, self-assuredness. They're so aware of themselves and their thoughts and their personalities. Like, you want them to go out into the world and be this, especially as a Black woman, you want them
I
to have.
know.
And I start thinking like, yeah, you're right. Like, but there still has to be boundaries. So that's
Mm-hmm.
kind of like the game, the cat and mouse game you play with being a parent, and also
Yeah.
letting your children be who they are.
It's a delicate dance for sure. Because my daughter, like people say she's like me. I'm like, no, not at that age. Like I came into myself when I
Yes.
was older. But look
Yes.
at what she's exuding at this age. And my
Yes.
comfort is that I'm raising a world leader. The world is not even ready for her because she's so assertive. She knows what she
Yes.
wants. She'll fight for her rights, and she's so eloquent. And I'm like, I have a lot to
Yes.
learn. I have a lot
Yes.
to learn, and just let her be.
Yes.
And I also have that fight in my head as a Nigerian mom, like, oh no, if I
Yes.
spoke to my mom this way, or I
Yes.
argued, or I asserted myself this way as a child, I don't think I'll have lived past, childhood. But
Yes.
how do I help her help me?
Yes.
Lord help me.
Yes. And see, I grew up in the complete opposite. So my mom was like my friend. She'd be like, oh, you can stay up late. You can go. Why don't you go out to, like when I was in high school, why don't you go out to a party? Go out with your friends. You're always in your room, like playing with your Barbies, or you and your friends, like go do something. And I'm like, Mom, no,
Wow.
no, no. Or my mom would say, Mom, don't say that. Don't do that. So it was like I was I was being the adult, but also
Yeah.
trying to be respectful by not talking back, but also being confident in who I am and
Who
what I
you
want
were.
for myself.
Yeah.
And so since my husband's Nigerian, like for instance, I'm really bad about when in your household, like when my kids say, Mom, I say, what? If you said that to your mom, like what, you'd probably get in trouble. Whereas my mom be like,
Exactly.
oh, okay. That she wouldn't notice, because that's just how we talk.
Yeah.
So when my kids say mom and I say what, and their dad calls them and they say what, he's like, what? You don't talk to your elders like that. And I'm like, it's my fault. I need to work on that. Like, it's not that they're being disrespectful. It's me. Like, they're with me all day. So I need to say yes. And I say, let's
Yes,
say yes.
mom.
Let's say
Hmm.
yes, sir.
Yeah.
Or like a couple months ago, the funny story is my husband and I had like a cultural thing, right? My daughter, like, so when there's all four of them at home, or two or three of them, I'll be talking to one, and then one will over here and say, I didn't do that. No, it wasn't me. It was, I'm like, no, I wasn't talking to you. I was talking to this one. You're okay. You're fine. I was talking to your sister. You're fine. So my oldest asked me, Mom, can you, go get me a pear? And I was busy. So my husband said, I'll get it for you. What is it that you want? She said, I wasn't talking to you. I was talking to mommy. He said, go to your room. You don't.
Ari's like that. Tyrone goes like, don't talk to me that way. It's
And he was so upset. He's like, I don't understand. Like I said, you're
so
usually,
innocent. They're so
she
innocent.
usually is disrespectful, and she needs to go to her room most times. But in this time, I'm going to stand up for her and say, she's
She
used to being
heard
at
it.
home
Yeah.
with three other siblings. And sometimes in conversation, whether it's good or bad, it
Let's
gets
talk.
misdirected. And so I have to
Yeah.
say, no, I wasn't talking to you. I was talking to her. Like I wanted her to, because I say, I'm gonna let her go clean up. My room is clean. It's not me, it's her. No, no, no. I'm talking to Falake. She needs to go clean up her room. I wasn't talking to you, sir. She need, oh, you're not in trouble. So I'm saying she's saying, no, mom, I want mommy in this moment.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
understand you're trying to help me as my dad and you're helping mommy, but I
Yeah.
want
But I
mommy
want mommy. Yeah.
home.
Yeah.
And he's like, okay. I kind of feel bad. But what did she do earlier? She was talking back. Yesterday, she was talking back to you, and I didn't get it. So this is just everything that's added up from the, and he's right. So I said, okay, go do it. But then I said, you know what? With children, if you don't punish them in the moment or you don't correct them in the moment, and then you try to bring up stuff from a week ago, it's not fair to them because
Yeah.
they
They
don't
don't
remember
remember. They have a
anything.
very short attention span. Yeah. Yeah.
Yes.
The capacity
So
to reduce. Yeah.
exactly. So we had to kind of agree to disagree on that situation because he
Yeah.
wasn't wrong, but I wasn't wrong either. But it's
Yeah.
still our child. So what's the
Yeah.
middle ground here? So the middle ground is she's still going to get time out because she did talk back earlier. But let's understand that when you talk to an adult, and you're trying to
Same.
ask a 5-year-old to pause in their thought and say, oh, I'm sorry, Daddy, I didn't mean it that way. I meant it. She's
Good
not
luck
going to.
with that. They don't understand it. It's complex to them. Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
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 So that's
Yeah.
one of the cultural things we have because I grew up telling mom, I'm not doing that. I'm not doing this. This is who I am. This is what I want to be. I don't want to be out till 12 o'clock. I know you think that's good for me so I can live life, but I want to be in my room at 15 years old playing Barbies right now. That's what I want to do. And so, yeah, so talking back, I was very like a good kid,
Oh
but I
yeah.
was very assertive with my mom in a form of like a Nigerian culture or Asian or Indian culture. It may be considered talking back. So I
Yeah.
do have to say, okay, let me take a step back and think these are how my children are going to answer us or their grandmother,
Yeah.
when she comes in town or whatnot. So yes.
Thanks for sharing that. Definitely a lot to learn, especially like intercultural relationships and raising kids in a different kind of culture as well than you grew up as well. So thanks for that. Um,
Mhm.
for women who might be caught in that messy middle, trying to juggle ambition, family, identity, and healing, what advice do you have for them?
I think you just have to like one of the things my husband says, you have a true north. And that just comes naturally to me. And it may not come naturally for everyone. But I think sometimes you just have to sit down and you have to regroup and you have to think about your priorities, what's important to you, but also keeping in mind that, you are an individual and there are goals and things that you'd like to accomplish on your own. And so if you're able to dig deep and like try to balance some of that, that's great. And I encourage that. But I also encourage that like things are not always going to be perfect. So my friend and I, she's like super successful with social media. She has over 1 million followers on all of her platforms. And so she's been kind of mentoring me and like teaching me how to edit things and how to film things and give me advice. And sometimes she'll say, well, I'm not going to put this out until it's like here
Perfect. Yeah.
because social media is so saturated that when you put something out that your first video has to be up here. And to some extent, I had like that's why I didn't post for so long because I'm like, I'm not meeting it's not coming out the way I want it to. But I said, you know what? Sometimes you can want something to be so perfect that you procrastinate or you don't
Right.
do this or you
Yeah.
don't do that, whether it's a hobby, social media, whether it's a conversation you want to have with somebody. Like, I know that this person's upset with me and I want to talk to them. Sometimes you just have to come real and just say, hey, it's not the way I want it to be, but it's something. I'm proud of it. It's me. It represents me. I've had a disagreement with a husband or a friend, and I'll say, you know what? I don't know the best way to come to you with this, but I want to apologize. And I'm not going to
Mm.
be as eloquent as you, but I realize I was wrong. And to me, and maybe somebody else would want it to be perfect and well thought out and written in a book and presented to them for an apology. And I can do that. But right now it's on my heart to share with you that like, I'm sorry. Or right now I feel like my child is teething and it's keeping me up at night and I know somebody's going through this, and while I'd like the extra hour to edit this video and add this and add that, I'm going to put this out here because the message is still the same. So I just say that to say, you just do your best, and as long as it's true to you and authentic to yourself, and it's something you want to do, then you just kind of will gradually find your way. But you also have to give yourself grace, and you can't put pressure on yourself to like do all of these things you want to do. As type A people, I abide by a checklist, mental
Mm.
and physical. And before I had children, I would like have like this internal like pat on the back for myself when it just was like I would get off on checking that box. Like I accomplished something today. I was productive. And then even my husband's the same way. But once you have children, it's like you start to beat yourself up because I'm like, I'm not naturally or internally a procrastinator, but these things
Yeah,
are
what's
being
yeah,
done.
piling up. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
and these deadlines, I'll say, okay, by the end of the week, I want this done in the house, or I want this email sent out, or I want this text to go, and it will weigh on me until it's done. But I'm still working. You're that's the other thing I want to say is you're always going to be a work in progress.
Definitely. Are we
You'll
all?
be
Yeah.
you yeah, and that's okay. And
Yeah.
so I just have to push back my to-do list because my kids are sick this week and now
Mm.
I'm sick or I was too overwhelmed. And so sometimes I have to step back and be like, you know what? My friend's like, you need to post 3, 4 times a week. You need to do this. You need to do. And I'm like,
Uh,
you know what? I can't do it this week. I can't.
mm-mm.
I'm going to try again next week. And if
Yeah.
I can't, you know what? Because I have to take care of my main priorities, which is my kids didn't ask for them to be 4 of them.
Right.
Sometimes I would like to wash their hair every 2 weeks. But they're like, "It's not my fault you had 4 of us. I have to wash your hair. All 4 of you getting your hair washed. I'm tired. I wanna go to bed. I can't see straight. I can't think straight. I can't speak straight." But they still deserve to be taken care of like they're the only child. And sometimes we don't
Hard.
sometimes the laundry didn't get washed or sheets, like, "It's been 2 weeks. I need to wash it." So you just have to give yourself grace and realize like I'm going to try to do better tomorrow, and if I don't, it's not the end of the world. That is my
Yeah.
motto. It's not, I didn't die. I have a friend that went through cancer. I don't have cancer. I'm healthy. My children are healthy. I have a roof over my head. I have air. I have heat. I have water. It's not the end of the world. And that's how I talk myself off the ledge a lot. When I
Ledge.
start
Yeah.
feeling myself getting anxious, I say, let's regroup here. You're alive. You're blessed. It's not the end of the world.
Yeah. Hmm. Whew. Thank you so so much. I mean,
Mhm.
I had such an amazing time with you on the show. I feel like I could just keep talking to you
I
forever,
know.
but
I'm a
we
talker
we
anytime.
gotta. No, no, no. You were fantastic, and I felt like I got to know more about you and just
Yes.
what really shaped your current process. And it's so beautiful to see you're a beautiful person in and out. And
Thank you.
despite all you've gone through, just still being here, solid, and keep striving and becoming a better version of yourself. And what you've poured into parenting and creating that role model for your kids. I think it's, and also the women and the people that follow you online, seeing
Mhm.
snips of that, and you bringing humor into that whole process of life
Mhm.
and all of its messiness. I think it's so beautiful. So, two rapid questions, and you can answer this quickly. What's one thing your kids think you're amazing at, but you secretly know you're just winging it 100%?
I think being a mother.
Ah!
I think being a mother, and I
Okay.
see it in little things, like when
Yeah.
I'm putting up their toys, like organize like once a week I go upstairs and I'll reorganize their whole playroom to where it's neat and orderly. I'll take a moment. I saw this thing on like Instagram and it was like before you put your kids' toys away, look at what it's like what they're doing, like what this represents in that moment. So I'll
Yeah.
see that like my oldest, she has like a Barbie doll closet. All her clothes are organized in there. She has the dolls asleep with like pajamas and this, and then she has
Good
the
mom.
clothes. Yeah,
Yeah.
she has the clothes, and I'm saying she's learning structure from me. And sometimes I think, oh, am I too hard on them? Am I, and I see that and I'm like, okay, she gets it. Like she gets that it's important to keep her room clean. She's finally starting to get it. Or it'll be another doll hugging. Or if I see both the white and the black doll together, I'll say, okay, like the talks we're having, like it's working, like it just reassures me, like, okay, I can still do better, but it's making sense. So I think that they they don't have to tell me I'm a great mother. They're 4, 5, 2, and 1. But I know that like I'm doing the best I can. They're not hungry,
Mm.
they're clothed, they're bathed, they look presentable when they go to school. And their teachers say, your girls are like so well behaved. They're so loved with their classmates.
Oh,
They always want to help me, even though they don't help me at home and they're not always loving to their sisters at home. I know that like I'm doing something as a mother even if I'm not verbally told, I'm told in other ways, like with what they do, with what I see, what their teachers tell me, and whatnot.
And that's it. That's so beautiful. That's because charity begins at home. They've seen that, expressed, and the love they take outside is something they've gotten from home. So kudos
Yes.
to you on that. Yeah. If your girls could remember just one thing about the kind of mom you were, what do you hope it would be?
I hope they know that they would remember about me that I love them unconditionally. I sacrifice everything for them, whether it's a good thing to do or a bad thing to do, and that I would just give them the world. I do anything for them.
Yeah.
And I just want them to always know that they're loved and they're supported in whatever they want to do. And, I instill in them to support each other. And so
Yeah.
when they fight, I say, listen, this is your sister. You don't always have to like her, but you're gonna have to take care of each other because in this world is they're all each of you are all that you each have. And so you have to cherish that and respect that.
Yeah.
And so I just try to instill them because when my husband and I are gone, they're just gonna have each other, which is why I can't
Yeah.
stop having kids. Like I'm like, oh Lord, like they need their own little tribe. But it's just true, it's true. And so I just hope that they take that mom taught us to like, make sure we put each other first and we support each other and we're loving. Like we just
Yeah.
want to focus on love here.
Yeah. What a life. Thanks for sharing all of that. And then finally for you is if you were to listen to this 10 years from now, 5 years from now, would you
Mhm.
like to leave a message for your future, Millie?
I would like to say I'm so proud of everything that you've achieved thus far. Um, and you're still super blessed. You have an amazing relationship with your husband, with your children, with your family. And um, I'm just proud of the person that you became in spite of my upbringing. And I hope that I can continue to, better myself and better my life and those around me.
Mm, thank you so much. Whew.
You're welcome.
What a ride. What a wild ride, right? And thanks for sharing up with your whole heart.
Yes.
And the way you just, and I know there's so many layers of you that we're yet to even touch, because I mean, it's just been
Mhm.
like an hour and a half long. But for reminding us that behind, every smiling mom photo or even polished post or skit, there's a story that is layered with so many things like loss, laughter, just trying to figure things out and then learning. And thank you for walking us through that part, the real parts of you that stretches you, that humbles you, and sometimes breaks you open in ways that are never expected. And to our listeners, if you've ever felt like you are just winging it, or like
Mhm.
you're holding everything together with a thread, or you're feeling at more things than you're winning, we hope this conversation resonated with you. You're not alone. You'd be surprised how many of us are just we're every day just like, okay, a whole blank canvas. Let's try and do it better because we didn't do so well yesterday.
Yes.
And there's so much you can emote on an Instagram post or share that doesn't diminish your life, but we're all going through one thing or the other, and I hope you don't feel alone in your journey. So find community, find people that can hold you together, that they can embrace you. Don't do life alone. And you're not doing it wrong. You're just living in the middle of something messy, and hopefully you're able to see meaningfulness in what you're doing.
Yeah.
So to all of our moms and sisters and people out there, whether you're juggling school runs, navigating big life decisions,
Mhm.
or grieving something quietly, or just simply trying to find, 5 minutes to breathe. We see you, we hear you,
Yeah.
we understand you, and we're here for you. So keep showing up, keep choosing care, for others and for yourself. And know that sometimes the most powerful thing you can just do is just to keep going, even when life feels, meaningless. Keep going. Thanks for listening. Thanks for joining us today. We'll see you in the next one. And thank you so much, Billy. I was so,
Thank
so
you.
honored to have you on the
Anytime.
podcast.
And
Thank you.
thank you so much for having this podcast as an outlet or a resource for those who may not feel that they have one. So I just want to thank you for having me. It's been a pleasure. I wish we could talk longer.
I
But
know. I
anytime
know.
you want me to come on, I am an open book and I'd love to join you.
Yeah, yeah.
And I'm
Whenever,
so proud of
I'll
you.
bring you back. I know I'll bring you back. I
Yeah.
have a show coming up in July that I'd like to invite you for because you've been one of my go-to people for navigating school systems. It was
Okay.
a whole new, so I'll be reaching out to you to set that up, and it will be a panel with other moms as well.
Oh,
How
that's
do we support, parents, especially Black parents, on
yeah.
navigating spaces, and advocating for your child and for the school system as well, because my
Yeah.
premise is that the school authorities are also trying to do good, but sometimes that good can be lost in the message. So how do we
Yes.
empower them to empower our kids? So yeah,
Yes.
so
That's
I'll be
beautiful.
reaching out to you for that.
Okay. I look forward to it.
All right. Say me hi to Million. Kisses to all of you beautiful kids. Bye, everyone. Thank
Bye.
you.
Have a happy Memorial Day.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
We'll just
Thank you for
we're
reminding
not
me of
doing
that.
anything. We're just gonna be doing the same stuff,
Same
washing,
here.
making
Same here.
baths,
Yeah. Yeah. Try to
coloring on
keep
the
all of us
walls.
alive. Yeah. Yeah.
But it's nice to say, right? It's still so like people say, "Well, how are you?" I'm great. No, really, I just cleaned up a bunch of urine on the floor, throw up in the bed. My kid pulled my hair out and scratched my eye. I had pink eye last week. Like everything's great. Yeah.
You know what I look forward to for you? When your kids get older and they're able to like help with some of the things around the house.
Oh,
Yeah,
yes.
that'll be a huge break for you
Yeah,
and
yeah,
and and,
they
and
are
Bobby
old
too.
enough. We need to have another. They are old enough to help. I don't enforce it enough because I want it done a certain way.
You better let that go, Millie.
I know.
Let that go.
I
LIG.
know.
Let it go.
I know.
Yeah, like yeah,
I
you're
know.
teaching them as well how to take responsibility. Like it's also like your husband. Like you want them to do things, but they don't do it well. I've learned to just don't look at it. Just they've done it. That's okay. Put your
Yeah.
eyes. Don't even go and clean up after. Don't do it. It's done.
Yes.
It's done.
Yeah.
It's
I'm
never gonna be
working.
100%. Otherwise, you're gonna drive yourself
Yes.
crazy.
That's what I say. Work in progress.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I let you let it go. Let them do it their way, and don't think about the end product. They did it, and that's okay.
Yes.
Take a
Yes.
nap, sip
Yes.
some whiskey, something. Just take your mind off
That's
of it. They've done it. It's
that's
done.
it's
It's
so
done.
hard. Oh my gosh,
It's
you're
hard,
so
yeah.
right.
We're the same. We're the same.
Yes.
Yeah. It's a control freak in
It's a
us. Like
control thing. It's a control thing. Ah, yeah,
center
y'all.
yourself. Center yourself, Mom. Thank you, Lily, and enjoy your break.
All right.
Hopefully it's a
Thank
good one.
you. All
All
right.
right.
You take care.
All right. Bye, bye,
Okay. Bye bye.
everyone. Bye.